You forgot where you put your keys this morning. You walked into a room and completely forgot why. Someone's name is on the tip of your tongue, but you just can't remember it.
Oh, right.
Sound familiar? Here's something most people don't know. Your memory isn't fixed. It's not something you're just born with that slowly fades away. The foods you eat today are directly affecting your ability to remember things tomorrow. In the next 12 minutes, I'm going to show you 5 foods that scientific research has proven can actually improve your memory. Not might help or could possibly. We're talking about measurable improvements in studies involving thousands of people. And I'll explain exactly how they work in your brain, how much you need, and how to start eating them today. Let's dive in. Hey, I'm Stokes, and this is Evidence Eats, where we break down nutrition science into information you can actually use. Before we get started, quick disclaimer. I'm not a doctor, and this isn't medical advice. If you have memory concerns or health conditions, talk to your healthcare provider. I'm here to share what the research says about food and memory. Today, we're covering 5 foods that have strong scientific evidence behind them for memory improvement. For each one, I'll explain what compounds are doing the work, how they affect your brain, what the studies show, and practical ways to eat them. All right, let's start with number 1. Fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, sardines, and trout. Here's why this matters. About 60% of your brain is made of fat, and a huge portion of that is a specific omega-3 fatty acid called DHA. Your brain literally needs DHA to function properly, but here's the catch. Your body can't make enough of it on its own. You have to get it from food. So what does DHA actually do for memory? It's a structural component of your neurons, the cells that store and transmit memories. When you have enough DHA, your brain cell membranes stay fluid and flexible, which means signals can pass between neurons more efficiently. Think of it like keeping the doors in your house well oiled. Everything just works smoother. But when you're low on DHA, those membranes become stiff and less responsive. Your neurons can't communicate as effectively, and that directly impacts memory formation and recall. The research here is really compelling. A study published in Neurology followed over 1,000 women for 8 years and found that those with the highest levels of omega-3s in their blood had significantly larger brain volumes, particularly in the hippocampus. That's the memory center of your brain. Larger hippocampus equals better memory capacity. Another study from the University of Pittsburgh looked at young adults in their 20s. They gave one group fish oil supplements for 6 months. The result? Measurable improvements in working memory. The type of memory you use to hold information in your mind while you're using it, like remembering a phone number long enough to dial it. And here's what's really interesting. Omega-3s also have powerful anti-inflammatory effects. Chronic inflammation in the brain is one of the major drivers of memory decline as we age. By reducing that inflammation, omega-3s help protect your memory long-term. So how much do you need? Most experts recommend at least 2 servings of fatty fish per week. A serving is about the size of your palm, roughly 3 to 4 ounces. If you're not a fish person or you're vegetarian or vegan, algae-based omega-3 supplements can provide DHA without the fish. That's actually where fish get their omega-3s from in the first place. The algae they eat. One quick note, not all fish are created equal. You want fatty, cold water fish. Tuna has some omega-3s, but salmon, mackerel, and sardines have significantly more. All right, that's number 1. Let's move to number 2. Blueberries, and actually all dark berries. But blueberries have been studied the most. Blueberries are absolutely packed with compounds called flavonoids, specifically a type called anthocyanins. These are what give blueberries that deep blue-purple color. And they're not just pigment, they're powerful molecules that directly affect your brain. Here's what happens when you eat blueberries. Those anthocyanins get absorbed into your bloodstream, cross the blood-brain barrier, and accumulate in brain regions involved in memory and learning. Once they're there, they do 2 important things. First, they act like a cleanup crew. Your brain uses a ton of oxygen to function, and as a byproduct, it creates free radicals, unstable molecules that can damage your neurons. Anthocyanins neutralize these free radicals before they can cause harm. That's the antioxidant effect you've probably heard about, and it's real. Second, and this is fascinating, they increase something called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of BDNF as fertilizer for your brain. It promotes the growth of new neurons and strengthens the connections between existing ones. More BDNF means better memory formation and better memory retention. The research on blueberries and memory is actually pretty remarkable. A study from the University of Reading gave people a blueberry drink and then put them in an MRI scanner while they performed memory tasks. Within just 2 hours, researchers could see increased activation in brain regions associated with memory. But the long-term studies are even more impressive. Research published in the Annals of Neurology followed over 16,000 women for more than a decade. The women who ate the most blueberries and strawberries showed cognitive aging that was delayed by up to 2.5 years compared to women who rarely ate berries. 2.5 years of preserved memory function just from eating berries regularly. That's significant. So, how much do you need? The studies showing benefits typically used about half a cup to a cup of blueberries several times a week. You don't need to eat them every single day. And here's good news if you're on a budget. Frozen blueberries retain almost all of their beneficial compounds, and they're usually much cheaper than fresh. I keep a bag of frozen berries in my freezer at all times. Toss them in oatmeal, blend them into smoothies, or just eat them frozen as a snack. Number 3 is coming up, and this one might surprise you. Whole eggs, and specifically the yolks. For years, eggs got a bad reputation because of cholesterol concerns, but modern research has cleared them for most people. And when it comes to memory, eggs are actually exceptional because of one nutrient most people have never even heard of: choline. Choline is critical for memory, and here's why. Your body uses choline to produce acetylcholine, which is one of the most important neurotransmitters for memory formation. Acetylcholine is literally the chemical messenger that allows your neurons to communicate when you're forming and recalling memories. In fact, many medications designed to slow Alzheimer's disease work by trying to increase acetylcholine levels in the brain. That's how important this neurotransmitter is for memory. But here's the problem. Most people don't get enough choline. The adequate intake is about 425 to 550 milligrams per day, depending on your sex. And studies show that over 90% of Americans fall short of this target. One large egg provides about 147 milligrams of choline, almost all of it in the yolk. So if you're someone who only eats egg whites, you're throwing away the most valuable part for brain health. Research from Boston University tracked thousands of adults for over a decade and found that people with higher choline intake performed significantly better on memory tests. They were also less likely to show brain changes associated with dementia on their MRI scans. Another study looked specifically at whether choline intake affected memory performance in healthy adults. The results were clear. Higher choline intake was directly associated with better verbal memory and visual memory. And during pregnancy, choline is absolutely crucial. It affects fetal brain development in ways that can influence memory and cognition for the child's entire life. That's why the American Medical Association recently recommended that prenatal vitamins include choline. So, how many eggs should you eat? For most healthy people, 1 to 2 eggs per day is completely fine and beneficial. The cholesterol in eggs doesn't significantly impact blood cholesterol for the vast majority of people. That's what decades of research has shown. If you don't eat eggs, other sources of choline include beef liver, chicken breast, fish, and Brussels sprouts. But eggs are one of the best and most convenient sources. All right, halfway through. Let's keep going. Number 4, walnuts specifically, though other nuts have benefits too. There's a fun fact that walnuts actually look like little brains. But beyond that visual similarity, they're genuinely one of the best nuts for memory and cognitive function. Walnuts are particularly high in a plant-based omega-3 fatty acid called ALA, alpha-linolenic acid. Now, ALA isn't as potent as the DHA we talked about from fish, but your body can convert small amounts of it to DHA, and ALA has its own anti-inflammatory benefits for the brain. But walnuts offer more than just omega-3s. They're rich in polyphenols, particularly compounds called elegotannins. These polyphenols have been shown to reduce oxidative stress and inflammation specifically in brain tissue. A study from UCLA analyzed data from thousands of American adults and found something interesting. Walnut consumption was associated with improved cognitive test scores across all age groups, from young adults to elderly participants. Better memory, better processing speed, better overall cognitive function. Animal studies give us even more specific insights. Research published in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease found that mice fed a diet enriched with walnuts showed significant improvements in learning ability, memory, and motor coordination. Even more interesting, the walnut-fed mice showed a reduction in beta amyloid plaques in their brains. Those are the protein clumps associated with Alzheimer's disease. Now, we can't directly translate mouse studies to humans, but it gives us a window into the mechanisms that might be at work. A human trial published in the Journal of Nutrition, Health and Aging had adults eat walnuts daily for 8 weeks. At the end, participants showed measurable improvements in inferential reasoning. That's your ability to draw conclusions and solve problems, and better working memory. How many walnuts should you eat? About a handful, or roughly 30 grams. Most days of the week is what the studies showing benefits typically used. That's about 7 to 9 walnut halves. You can eat them plain as a snack, toss them on salads, blend them into smoothies, or even use walnut butter. Just keep them in the fridge or freezer because the omega-3s can go rancid at room temperature. One more to go, and this last one is something you might already be eating without realizing its memory benefits. Number 5. Dark leafy greens like spinach, kale, collard greens, and Swiss chard. If there's one category of food that shows up in every single study on healthy aging and brain health, it's dark leafy greens. And the memory benefits are particularly well documented. These vegetables are absolutely packed with nutrients your brain needs: vitamin K, folate, beta carotene, and lutein. Let me focus on vitamin K for a second because this one's fascinating. Vitamin K is involved in the production of sphingolipids, which are a special type of fat that's densely packed in your brain cell membranes. They're crucial for the structure and function of neurons, especially in areas involved in memory. Here's where it gets really interesting. Researchers at Rush University conducted a study called the Memory and Aging Project. They followed nearly 1,000 elderly adults for about 5 years, tracking their diet and testing their cognitive function regularly. The people who ate just 1 to 2 servings of leafy greens per day had cognitive abilities equivalent to being 11 years younger compared to those who rarely ate greens. 11 years! That's not a small effect, that's massive. Folate is another key player here. It's involved in producing neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, and it plays a role in the methylation processes that affect how your genes are expressed in brain cells. Low folate levels have been consistently linked to poor cognitive performance and higher risk of cognitive decline. Then there's lutein, a carotenoid that actually accumulates in brain tissue. Studies using neuroimaging have shown that people with higher lutein levels in their brains perform better on memory and learning tasks. This correlation holds true from childhood all the way through old age, and the anti-inflammatory compounds in dark leafy greens, the flavonoids and other polyphenols, work continuously to protect your brain from the kind of chronic inflammation that damages memory over time. How much should you eat? Based on the research, 1 to 2 servings daily seems to be the sweet spot. A serving is about a cup of raw greens or half a cup of cooked greens. Raw in salads, sautéed with garlic, blended into smoothies where you can't even taste them, added to soups, or baked into chips. There are endless ways to eat them. The key is finding a preparation you actually enjoy so you'll eat them consistently. All right, let's bring this together. We covered 5 foods with solid scientific evidence for improving memory: fatty fish for omega-3s and brain structure, blueberries for antioxidants and BDNF, eggs for choline and acetylcholine production, walnuts for plant-based omega-3s and polyphenols, and dark leafy greens for vitamin K, folate, and lutein. But here's what I want you to understand. None of these foods work in isolation. Your memory health depends on your overall dietary pattern, your sleep quality, whether you exercise, how you manage stress, and whether you keep your brain challenged with learning. These foods are tools, not magic bullets, but they're evidence-based tools that actually work when you use them consistently. And here's the really important part. The choices you make today are shaping your brain for the future. Memory decline isn't inevitable. A lot of what we think of as normal aging is actually the result of years of inflammation, oxidative stress, and nutrient deficiencies that could have been prevented. It's never too late to start taking care of your brain. Studies show that even people who adopt healthier eating patterns later in life see improvements in cognitive function. So here's what I want you to do. Pick 1 or 2 of these foods and commit to eating them regularly this week. Don't try to overhaul your entire diet overnight. Small, consistent changes are what create lasting results. If you found this helpful, hit that like button. It really helps the channel reach more people who need this information. Subscribe if you want more evidence-based nutrition content. Drop a comment and tell me, which of these foods are you already eating, and which one are you going to add to your diet? I read every comment and I love hearing from you. In the next video, we're talking about brain fog, what causes it, and the specific foods that can clear it up fast. You don't want to miss that one. Thanks for watching Evidence Eats. I'll see you in the next video.